All right, today we're doing the Classic Plus Project survey. This is a community survey, not run by Blizzard, not endorsed by Blizzard, not anything like that, just to kind of try to see what people want in Classic Plus, because Classic Plus means something different to every single WoW player, basically. So this survey is going to give us a lot of questions about what my idea about Classic Plus is, and then is going to show us what the popular votes are. Like, of all the people that took this survey, like, is this idea actually popular? How many people like this? How many don't? That kind of thing. This isn't really, like, super serious. It's kind of more for fun and to see what kind of questions are being posed in this survey and see what other people think. So let's just jump into it. Start the intro survey. Demographics and server and game settings. Which faction do you usually play? I switch between both. Which race do you consider your main? Feel free to pick multiple. Whatever is best for the thing I'm doing. That's actually how I play the game mostly. I'm not really, loyal to one particular race. What class do you consider your main? Feel free to pick Okay, that's easy. Rogue. How old are you? Prefer not to say. How often do you play WoW each week? Okay, well, I stream for... yeah, this one. This is the one. This is the one. Yep. What is your experience with the various iterations? Check all that apply. 2004. I did play in 2004. Believe it or not, I played a hunter. But before Burning Crusade came out, I was already rolling Rogue back then. I already found out the error of my ways playing Hunter, and had already re-rolled to Rogue before Burning Crusade came out. I did play on Nostalrius. I did not play Season of Mastery. I played Season of Discovery. That shit's great. Classic Anniversary. I've never played WoW. No, that doesn't apply. What role do you usually play? Damage dealer. What regions do you play from? NA. Which of the following labels describe you? Hardcore Raider? Okay, I saw one of the other streamers do this, and I thought this question was worded poorly. When they say hardcore, do they mean like one life character type of raider? Or do they mean like high performance raider? Right? That's like going for speed runs and high performance raiding. Because like, they don't really make a distinction here. There isn't an option for that. So, I mean, I raid hardcore and casual. I mean, literally hardcore and also high performance. Completionist, PvP. Yeah, I don't think those... Like, I do some of these activities sometimes, but I wouldn't say they're my focus. How likely are you to play Classic Plus? I'll play, but who knows for how long, depends on the quality. Yeah, I mean, if they really fuck it up, I don't know. I have a kind of unique situation where, like, I'm not just playing the game because I like it. I'm playing it because it's also my income. So I'm a little bit more tied to the game than, like, a regular player is who's just like, well, if I stop having fun, I'm going to quit, right? Well, if I want to quit, it's like I have to come up with a different source of income. So I'm a little bit more tied in than other people would be. But I feel like if I wasn't a streamer, it would definitely be this option. You know, depends on the quality. Would you pay a box fee? If so, how much? I mean, cost more than just I won't play. I mean, it depends on what is shown / promised. I don't know. Would I pay $60 if it looks like dog shit? I think this is the one where it's like, okay, if I'm a streamer, this is the answer. If I'm a casual, this is the answer. You know, if I'm a regular player, that's the answer. But I'm a streamer, we'll just go with that. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you feel about Classic Plus if they changed how the game looked via Unreal Engine graphics? I don't know. I'm like a 2 or a 3 on that. Like, it could be cool. They could also totally fuck up the feel of the game. And I don't really think the graphics are what make the game. They aren't what drive me to log in every day. So I feel like, you know, it works the way it is. Don't fuck it up. And like the time investment shouldn't be on making a bunch of new graphics. It should be on like designing good systems and content. Modern WoW character models, I'm pretty mid on that. Character animations, whatever. Modern WoW spell effects, pretty whatever again. Player target frames, action bars, nameplates, yes. I think the classic UI is shit, and they should bring, you know, to classic the stuff they're doing in retail that basically makes it so you don't have to have add-ons or don't have any combat benefit for having add-ons. I really want that to exist in classic. And for that to exist, they have to improve the baseline UI. I think that would be a very, very good thing. I think the necessity of add-ons to really play the game is a huge negative for classic. How would you like Blizzard to handle the server rollout? Only one mega server lets players opt in, opt out from PvP. Yep, that's what I think is the way. I think you want the minimal amount of division between your players that prevents them from playing with each other. I think the PvP, PvE separation is bad. I think the multiple servers separation is bad. Every time you prevent one player from playing with another due to some decision that really isn't about the game, it's a fucking bad thing. How would you feel if Classic Plus had an element of seasonal servers resetting every couple years? Depends on a lot of factors. I mean, it's like RuneScape has like seasonal things, and then at the end of every season, they like merge back into the permanent server. That could be cool if you had something like that going. But as long as it like merges back into the permanent server, so the characters don't go away and the progress doesn't really go away. So I'm putting depends, because like they could definitely do that in a way that would not be attractive. How do you feel about layers in Classic Plus? Layers are fine. There is no way you can do a mega server, not have layers, and not have people complain that they can't ever mine a mining node or pick a flower from herbalism or skin a mob or complete a quest. You have to have it if you're going to have mega servers. And I would say having a mega server is more good than having layers is bad. So yeah, mega server with layers wins out over a shitload of small servers that don't have layers. Next section, in-game systems. Should the size of raids be reduced from 40? Yes. Flex rating so we can bring more players and the challenge stays the same. Allow me to bring more than 20 if I want, like in... Yeah, SOD system was good. Flex rating so we can bring more players and the challenge stays the same. This is like bring more players and it gets easier. This is bring more players and the raid scales up. I mean, I've done the SOD version and I thought that was pretty good. Dungeon Finder be implemented, but only to group you. It's still up to you to travel to the dungeon. That's probably okay. Do it like it's in Modern WoW by auto-grouping and teleporting you. Definitely not that. It's either no or this one. I think this is okay. My opinion is definitely not option 3, but I'm pretty indifferent between option 1 and 2. Summoning stones be outside the dungeons? Nah. Should there be heroic dungeons? Depends on how they implement them. I'm really not about World of Warcraft being a hard game. And every time you're like, oh, let's put a hard mode in, I'm immediately like, slow down. Let's not make this a hard game. You know, I think it's way more about just chilling, vibing, hanging out with your friends. And like when you start making the game hard, you basically start having to bench your friends who are not like reading guides, reading boss strats, optimizing their gear, fully enchanting everything, researching their rotation. And it sucks when you have to bench your friends because they're not up to the performance level to be able to complete the content that you want to do. And it's just like, I don't think WoW should be this like competitive game where you're like measuring your performance or something. Should there be rated PvE, Mythic Plus, Mage Tower, Prestige levels, rating leaderboards? I won't do it, but I'm fine with the game having it. Yeah, I think so. Like, you know, this might sound like it's in contrast to what I was just talking about. I think when the game is easy, the players that want a challenge will do things like boss parsing and speedrunning. And as long as, like, the casual players still get to clear the content and see the best loot and get the best loot, like, I don't care if the hard, the performance-oriented players, like, do speedruns. Like, that's what they do, right? That's fine. Let them do that. But I don't want the, like, hard content in the game to be implemented in a way that makes the casual player feel like they aren't getting the full experience, or they aren't getting to kill all the bosses or see the best loot or anything like that. And if you have a leaderboard for speedrunning, that doesn't really do anything, to hinder the casual player. Like, I don't think that directly hurts the casual player. Rated PvP, I'm not a PvP player, no opinion. AoE looting, yes please. What features of world buffs would you want to see in Classic? No world buffs ever, don't belong in raids. Weaker world buffs. I think, so this option isn't exactly here. I would say either you just completely nuke it, get them the fuck out. Maybe you just don't put them in raids, maybe. Like, maybe they can stay in the game, but they don't go in raids. The alternative to that's like option one, the nuclear option. The alternative I imagined was like, world buffs are unique. You can only have one world buff on at a time. And then maybe different specializations would prefer different world buffs. And then you would also, maybe balance the world buffs so the different ones are approximately equal. That way, the power gap between having world buffs and not having world buffs is greatly reduced compared to, like, being able to stack up 7 of them at once. So that's important, that you reduce the gap between having them and not having them. And then also, if you can only have one at a time, it greatly reduces the amount of chore that you have to do to, like, prepare for a raid or whatever. So I would be okay with that, or I would be okay with no world buffs ever. How would you feel if Classic Plus trimmed the capabilities of add-ons and weak auras? Happy to see them go. Yep. Easy. I talked about that before. Should mount level requirements be lowered? Let people get mounts earlier? Yep. Should flying mounts be implemented? Hell no. They need a 4th option. They need a hell no. Flying mounts, one of the worst additions to the game, in my opinion, ever. Guild banks, sure. Classic Plus have achievements. Should Classic Plus have achievements? Sure, whatever. Achievements generally are not related to player power. I think that's fine. Should reputations be streamlined / made easier to level? I guess it's like a case-by-case basis. Kind of yes. I'd probably lean towards the side of yes on that one. How do you feel about adding transmog? Transmog bad? I would say transmog bad. Should a separated collections inventory be implemented? Toys and mounts? Sure. Should Classic Plus allow GDKPs? That's a fucking loaded question right there. That is a loaded question. I think the problem with the GDKPs has always just been that Blizzard doesn't enforce their policies and they do not ban people aggressively enough that buy gold, sell gold, or bot in the game. Whether GDKPs are allowed or not, like, the problem isn't whether GDKPs are allowed or not, in my opinion. I think they should be allowed, but, like, the problem is that Blizzard doesn't do enough to enforce their policy. So a bunch of players, you know, rightfully believe that they can safely buy gold and not get punished or get merely a slap on the wrist. And so they just go about buying gold and botting and selling gold and stuff like that. And they just don't get banned. They don't suffer a severe enough punishment to discourage the activity. Should the level cap ever be increased from 60? Depends how long after launch. Would have to see. I don't really think there's a value to increasing the level cap. You know, like, that doesn't really make sense to me. It's... When you increase the level cap from players that already got to max level, it's like a band-aid on content of, like, here's some more chores you have to do before you get back to where you were at max level already. And it's like, so that lasts for, you know, 10 hours of gameplay that they maybe want to do, maybe they don't want to do, maybe they're annoyed by it. But it doesn't really solve the problem of, like, okay, now you're max level again, we need more max level content. Like, sticking in this section where it's like, okay, now you need to level grind before you can do max level content again, doesn't really do anything to solve any, like, long-term, like, max level content shortage type of issue. So I don't think there's really a lot of value in increasing the level cap. Section 3, the world. Classic Plus have new zones. Keep the original zones and just expand on them. I think it's fine to put new zones. Where in Azeroth would be okay for these new zones to be? 2 main continents. Outland, Draenor, Argus, Karresh. Anywhere on Azeroth. So that would be... I guess that wouldn't include Outland, but it would maybe include Northrend or the Panda Island. Maybe you just stick with the 2... I mean, that's... When you say just the 2 main continents, I think that's too limiting, and I want the game to have a like, long future. So if you really are clamped down on the regions you can go to, like, that could be too limiting. Should new content be added for leveling? Yes. Should leveling be sped up compared to level 6, you know, vanilla leveling? I'd say rather boost my characters. Speed it up across the board. Yeah, I would say it's okay if it's a little bit faster. Like, vanilla leveling is kind of fucked. There are more class-specific quests, only to unlock abilities, spells. Let me just do yes. Class-specific quests are fun. Should there be more epic quest lines? Yes. Which of the following best describes how you'd like to see changes in Classic Plus to old raids? Easy raids. Tune them as needed for any change in player power, but keep the spirit of the original raid. Add more, definitely not this. Do all the above, plus add new bosses and areas within them. As needed for changes in player power, but keep the spirit of the original. I think that's closest to what I want. I think the raids should be easy. I talked about that before. I'm not trying to have raids where I need to bench Timmy because he didn't do all the research already or he's not good enough at his rotation. I'm just trying to raid with Timmy, okay? And when the raids are too fucking hard, then that leads to gatekeeping, and it leads to bullshit, and it leads a lot to bad behavior when the raids are too hard for the average player. Should there be new raids? Yes. Scarlet Enclave. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Section 4, the player. Should Classic Plus have new playable races, and if so, which of the following categories would be acceptable? Any race from future WoW expansion, new player races that already exist in Azeroth, completely new, never seen before. Yeah, that's fine. New classes. Death Knight, Monk, Demon Hunter. Ones we've seen, but also completely new classes never seen in WoW before. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. New classes. Volpera rogues in Classic Plus. I don't know. I'm gonna put no opinion. I don't know. I'm leaning more towards no than yes. But like, I'm very uneasy on that question. Like, that could totally fuck the game. Okay? It could totally fuck the game if they, you know, add some shit that's like really wacky and out there. But, you know, maybe that's needed for longevity's sake of like being able to add new classes. New race class combos be added? Sure. Horde have paladins and the Alliance have shamans? Oh, that's a question. Now that is a question. Leave it as it was in vanilla. Okay, so I think Paladin versus Shaman, Horde versus Alliance definitely add some like distinct feel to each of the factions where it's like there's a meaningful difference between them. But it also comes with the problem of like everyone's going to think one is better or the other's better, and then they're going to flock to that faction. And encounters are going to have to be designed to be able to be beat with paladins and without paladins, or with shamans and without shamans. So it's a little bit restrictive on how things are designed, which could be, you know, interesting in that the players would have to tackle them in different ways. But I don't know. I think I'm going to go no opinion on that one also. I think there's definitely like pros and cons on both. And I don't, you know, as a rogue main, I don't really have strong feelings one way or another. New base abilities and spells, class roll combinations, etc. Some quality of life adds. Some new spells that modernize ability rotations. Yes. Just don't completely change them. Yeah, that's about how I feel. I feel like Season of Discovery went like a little bit too far with the new abilities, new spells, and new shit. But like, I would prefer Season of Discovery to vanilla characters. But really, the ideal would be like somewhere in between those two. The following, what is the most important change needed to raid buffs? You may want to pick multiple, but only pick your biggest concern. 1 hour long buffs. We'll ask about raid buffs more later. Raid buffs should cost less mana, should no longer require reagents, should be single cast raid wide, be combined so multiple classes can buff different things. Single cast raid wide, I think. Just annoying when you have to wait for the priest to drink like 5 times before they can finish buffing the group. It's just annoying, and it's like, why is this like this? I want to see reworks across the board. Talent specializations? Yeah, sure. Give me new ways to play my character. 4th, new talent specialization be added for classes. Give everyone something new to look forward to try. Okay, I'm between these two. Limited or give everyone something. Let's go a little limited. I mean, then you could never have... Okay, never mind. We'll go with this one because it opens the door to Rogue Tank. But it also does... Now we're going to go the limited one. I think Rogue Tank and Mage Healer and Warlock Tank, they were, like, from Season of Discovery were, like, kind of fucked. Like, I don't need my mages to be healing. Like, having a few more viable tank specializations is good, but, like, you know, with, like, Paladin and Druid, but those were, like, already trying to be tanks, and Blizzard just failed to design them as tanks in vanilla. Should every specialization be competitive? Viable in all scenarios? Not in most cases, but vanilla hybrid classes don't perform well outside of healing. Those classes could use a bit of love. Not every spec needs to be perfectly raid viable, overtuning for PvE balance, and vice versa. I mean, personally, I don't give a shit about PvP balance, but I really liked in SOD that I had multiple ways to play my rogue that were within, like, a percentage or two of theoretical damage output. And I thought that was really good, that I didn't feel, like, shoehorned into one build, otherwise I'm, like, griefing my team. So, yes, I think, like, having multiple specializations be, like, aggressively balanced in raiding is important. Dual spec? Sure. New professions be added? I don't know. I don't really care. Professions be updated to have more endgame relevance. Yes. I'm not a robot. Submit. End of survey. Okay. That's the intro. Wait, there's one intro survey and there's what? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more surveys? Son of a bitch. We took 40 minutes to do the first one. Tsuin says DPS spell power pally would be sick, like an actual Shakadin. Lore, dungeons, raids. Okay, let's do the raid survey. Maybe we won't do all of these right now. Should there be level up raids that give strong items but require 10 plus players? Yeah, dude, that was cool as fuck. How do you feel about catch-up raids? Invalidate all the work I did in the previous tier by making it easy to get loot as powerful as the harder to get stuff. Don't do more of these. Don't care as long as the content's fun. Are great for gearing ults, and more of them would be a welcome addition to Classic. I think the premise of catch-up raids just implies that raids, like older raids, are going to be invalidated. I think you want to do it closer. I think, you know, vanilla baseline has, like, things like Onslaught Girdle and Band of Akuria that are, like, drop from Molten Core, but they last as, like, the best available item for multiple phases. I think you want more of that, and you want less of a power creep between each raid phase. Like, on Titan Reforged, they just released the second phase of raids, and, like, you know, for a handful of classes and specializations, like, there just, like, isn't a caster DPS cloak or something like that. I don't know if that example is exactly right, but there are, like, holes in the gear. So, like, not every single slot gets upgraded with the new phase. You use some of the old phase items, and that's, like, intentional. And I think that's very good. So the new raid doesn't completely replace the old raid. I think it'd be good if you had the raid loot set up so, like, the new raid replaces, like, 1/2 of your old gear at most. You know, so, like, the items feel more impactful because they last longer, and then you're also still doing multiple raids at a time. And then maybe, like, the third raid comes out, and then you're only using, like, 1 or 2 items from the first raid still. And then the fourth raid comes out and, like, none of the items from the first raid. So it's like, just, you know, things are gonna get replaced. Getting upgrades is exciting. If you make the items from the first raid, like, eternally relevant, then that's a problem. But, like, just really try to squeeze the length out of how long an item is relevant. How do you feel about RP elements in raids? Want to see numbers on the screen, not some boss giving a speech? First or second time, it's fun to experience, but eventually it's just annoying, so some option to skip the RP. Yeah, sure. How do you feel about raids getting nerfed days, weeks, months after launch? The easier the content is, the better. That's how I feel, but, like, why don't you just start it out easy? Nerfs never feel good and should never happen. Let players struggle. I mean, I would say you should start it out easy, and it should never be hard, and there should also never be nerfs. But that's because it was never hard to begin with, and the majority of players could experience the content to begin with. Which there isn't really an option for that. Given the choice of a new raid being spoiled by PTR but launched relatively bug-free, yes, put the PTR in. Keep it very brief and more limited without exposing the entire raid. I don't know how you bug test if you don't expose the entire raid. You can't fucking release content without testing it. It's fucked. You can't do that. It's so bad. You just have to live with the fact that it's gonna get spoiled. Rank your ideal raid sizes. 20, 15, 10, 25, 30, 35, 40. There. Yup. 20, slightly smaller, and then these are all bad. How do you feel about raids and or bosses requiring resistances in Classic? Entire raid shouldn't need resistance. Yeah, I'm either between, like, remove it entirely or only make a few people need it. Should raids have multiple difficulty levels? One difficulty? Yes, absolutely, one difficulty. How would you want the difficulty of raids in Classic Plus to be? Keep them about as hard or even easier than Classic. I don't want to prog multiple days a week just to kill bosses. That sounds like me. Let's read the other options. Should be about as hard as some of the raids were in Season of Discovery. Tough for some, easy for others, but definitely harder than the originals. I don't want to prog multiple days a week just to kill bosses, honestly. Raids could be harder, but I'd want the amount/quality of loot to go up with the difficulty. I love Mythic raids. Just go... Bro, if you love Mythic raids, uninstall Classic and install Retail. That's the game for you. If you ask me, in my mind, the biggest differentiation between Classic and Retail is, like, Retail caters to the people that want a challenging experience within World of Warcraft. It has infinitely scaling difficulty of, like, Mythic raids, Mythic plus dungeons, you know, Mythic raids, hard bosses, like, really challenging things that literally the best players in the world take hundreds of attempts to defeat. Like, you know, there effectively is no cap on the amount that, you know, the levels that you can reach of achievement in performance in that game. I don't want any of that in Classic. I think Classic should be the game that isn't about this, like, competitive, performance-oriented gameplay. If there were different difficulties for raid, okay, given that they're going to make different difficulties, how should the loot differ? Cosmetically different is the only thing I'm okay with. Can I type in if I type other? Nah, cosmetically different basically gets what I'm getting at. Like, you can make it appear different. You can make it have, like, mounts or tabards, but I do not want a casual player playing on the lower difficulty to ever feel like they're missing out on player power because they're not doing the hard mode. So that means no increased quantity, no increased quality for doing the hard mode. Should cooldowns reset in raids after a wipe/successful kill? Yeah, that seems fine. How do you feel about world bosses? Are annoying and incentivize players no lifing so they can scout a spawn. We're talking about, I would assume, the vanilla implementation of world bosses. Removed or changed. Yeah, I would say that. How would you want world bosses to look in Classic? More accessible to everyone, so making them all instance like they were in SOD is a good change. I like world bosses, but feel like the instance version didn't really capture the magic, where they can spawn in the world and inside the instance. Sure. I mean, I think the Titan Reforged system almost had it right. With just a really fast respawn time, I would take the Titan Reforged system, and then I would put like 4 or 5 spawn points, and then I would make them like hyper spawn or even faster respawn than they are in Titan Reforged, like 1 minute respawn, but multiple spawn points. So you don't have 5 different groups camping the exact same spot perpetually fighting over the tag. Like, that shit's so annoying. How do you feel about limited time events like the AQ Gate event spawning content in the world within a set limited time frame? They're cool, but create FOMO. I don't want to have to schedule my life around this game, so remove them. They should last longer than 10 hours or even a couple days. I love these events and want to see them more often. I was here. Yeah, I mean, they should last longer. I think some of these events should be like annual events or, twice yearly events. So like if you miss it, like you can just do it next time it comes out. But these like limited events are pretty cool. I wouldn't want to see them totally removed, but I don't think they should be one time ever type of events. That's the main change I would make. Yearly, twice a year, quarterly, something like that. Quests that require you to enter multiple raids. That's fine. Like these, but once the content is past the current meta, create some sort of catch-up so I don't have to run it, can still get my item. That seems fine. How do you feel about bosses cycling week to week or mechanics changing? Shouldn't have to relearn a fight on week 4 after having killed it. Keep the bosses the same every week. Yeah, I hate that bullshit. Changing it drastic. Maybe this is a better option. Some variety is fun, but changing it drastically is a step too far. Yeah, okay. So like Chromagus, I feel like is kind of okay, but like Beatrix that forces you into like a mechanic that just completely fucks your raid is not okay. I mean, Chromagus actually, time lapse would be an example of something where like I would remove time lapse from the rotation. How long should raid gear remain relevant on average? Current gear should be relevant for 2+ tiers. 2 or slightly worse than next tier. Yeah, 2+ tiers, I would say. The phase schedule in Classic Plus, reorder the raid schedule of original. Give me a new phase schedule to experience. I think they should be like old raid, new raid, old raid, new raid, old raid, new raid, until they run out of old raids, and then it's just new raids. But, like, it's not going to be exciting to me if Classic Plus comes out and it's Molten Core, then Blackwing Lair, then Temple of AQ, then Naxxramas with some changes. Like, you gotta put some like, fully new experiences in earlier. Yes, I like GDKPs and want them in Classic Plus. This was asked before, but like, my opinion is the same. I don't think there's a problem with the GDKP loot system. I think the problem is Blizzard refuses to aggressively punish gold buyers and gold sellers and botters. The problem is that Blizzard doesn't enforce their own terms of service strictly enough. That creates this, culture of like, it's okay to buy gold, we can buy gold and not get punished. And then that really leads to a problem. I don't think GDKPs are this like boogeyman that some people think they are. I think it's a good loot system that provides a lot of good incentives for players, like staying to the end of the raid, incentivizing players who are already geared and experienced to run the content, stuff like that. I'm not a robot. Submit. Wait, I can look at community results? Okay, let's go systems. Economy, reputations, and more. Itemization, mechanics, PvP. Mechanics. Fix the loot system at its core so there's no reason to have GDKP in the first place. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier. I'd seen some people talk about a loot system from a different game that I think would work very well in World of Warcraft. I think they were talking about PoE. I can't remember exactly, but the way it would look in World of Warcraft is you know, you do Molten Core and Ragnaros drops an item that everyone in the raid can loot one copy of. Let's call it like Symbol of Ragnaros. Just like a little token thing off of Ragnaros. This item is freely tradable. You can trade it, you can put it on the auction house, you can sell it, whatever. And then what you do with this token is there's a vendor that says like, you know, for 10 Symbol of Ragnaros, you can buy an Onslaught Girdle, or a Ring of Spell Power, or a Band of Acuria, or basically any loot out of Molten Core. Maybe you don't let people buy like Bindings of the Windseeker, but it should be the vast majority of loot in Molten Core should be purchasable for, you know, a somewhat large quantity of Symbol of Ragnaros. And then this does a lot of the good things that GDKP does without involving like gold being exchanged within the raid. Okay? It provides a reason for geared and experienced players to come. They can come in and get that token, sell it on the auction house if they want to. They could give it to their alt to help gear up their alt. It provides a good reason for everyone to stay till the end of the raid, because this is a reward that's valuable to every raider, regardless if they have gear or not, or if their soft reserve dropped or not. So you have far fewer problems with like people leaving in the middle of the raid, and you generally have a higher raid quality because you have a system in place that incentivizes geared and experienced players to continue attending the raid. That's what I would do. But let's look at this Classic Plus survey mechanics. What version of layers would you want to see in Classic? Multiple identical layers, as many as necessary to prevent lag and stop the world from feeling too crowded. Layers only out in the world, no layers in large cities. I mean, that would be crazy. If someone votes no layers, this is another one where like, if someone votes no layers, you should just delete all their other votes because their opinion's irrelevant. You literally just can't have... This game won't work with the populations it has these days if you have no layers. It just won't work. You have to have some kind of layering system. Spell batching. Remove it entirely. We're not in 2004 anymore. That's some bullshit mechanic. How do you feel about the measures taken by Blizzard to prevent boosting within dungeons? Let players boost. I don't know. I mean, I think it'd be better if there was I think you should get rid of boosting, but you should also make the leveling process easier, right? Faster, more enjoyable in some way, so people don't like feel so driven to go do boosting. I don't know what to really put on that. My opinion isn't really listed as an option. Excuse me. Mobs scaled with your level in the open world? No. How do you feel about the various currencies? Currencies are important for horizontal progression. Use them when you need to. There are too many. I mean, there aren't a lot of currencies in vanilla. You start to get currency spam when you're talking about like Wrath of the Lich King with multiple different types of badges. And I think we're generally assuming a baseline of vanilla for the context of these questions. So I think it's okay to have, you know, more than there are in vanilla if they're being used for a good thing. But you get to the levels of Wrath of Lich King, then it's like, slow down. Suin says, I hadn't thought about this before, but do you think having a box price is worth it if for no other reason than putting up a barrier to stop or at least slow down botting or gold selling? I don't know. I mean, yeah, it adds $60 more, but it doesn't really solve the way you solve that problem is you just gotta... I mean, it's a measure that would slow down the problem, but like ultimately Blizzard needs to step up enforcement and they need to be more willing to punish more severely when they catch, particularly players buying gold. I think the people farming gold, botting gold, and selling gold, they're just going to remake accounts over and over. It's a business to them. But once you like put the fear of actually losing your account if you buy gold into the actual players of the game, once they're actually afraid of that, you can maybe get them to stop buying gold, right? Right now, I would say the majority of people are not afraid of buying gold. They do it, they don't get punished, or when they do get punished, it's a slap on the wrist and they keep playing. And what they learn from that is it's okay to buy gold. They need to have significantly more severe punishments for when players are caught buying gold to actually, sway the behavior of their players. Version of consumables, class elixirs, food, and more. All of it is usable at the same time and should be for parsing. Make them more accessible and cheaper. Flask or Guardian Elixir, not both. Keep it limited. I think the TBC system is better. I kind of don't like the bullshit of like stacking up 8 different consumables from vanilla. Classic Plus increase the view distance of enemy nameplates. Sure. Weapon skill remain a mechanic in Classic Plus. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I think the problem with weapon skill in vanilla is just that it's very impactful and it's very hard to find. Very few items have access or have weapon skill on them. So it makes like random world drop epics like Edgemaster's Handguard be one of the like literally only options to get weapon skill. And that's dumb. Weapon skill is a fine mechanic. It just needs to be available on more items. Okay, systems. Let's do a player one. Classes and talents, professions, races, and factions. Okay, this one sounds the most interesting to me. How would you rate the class balance in Vanilla WoW? 2. You have 1 relevant damage dealing class, which also happens to be the best tanking class. I think when the balance is better, the game is better. And when the balance is shit, like it is in Vanilla, the game is shit. I'm actually giving it a 1. Do you think any balancing needs to happen for Classic Plus? How should they be balanced? True balance, everything close in DPS. Wait, no. Some classes can be better at single target or cleave than others, but mostly similar. They all need important utility, so you bring them. Okay, one of these two is good. So I actually like this one a little bit more. I don't know. I'll go with this one. But this is something that happened in Season of Discovery and was also fixed in Season of Discovery. Rogues provided no real relevant group buff or debuff that made you want them in your raid in Phase 2. In Phase 1, they just did good single targets, so you wanted them. In Phase 2, their single target was mediocre, and they didn't provide anything like a Battle Shout, or a Curse of Recklessness, or a Gift of the Wild, or a Power Word Fortitude, or a Wind Fury Totem, or like almost every class had some kind of buff or debuff that they could provide that benefited the whole group. And to be honest, no one really cared that rogues could do expose armor for like 50 more armor reduction. It wasn't a reason that a group would actually bring a rogue, whereas Battle Shout for the melee group is a big reason you would bring a warrior. So they fixed this in Phase 3, giving rogues Occult Poison, which was a debuff that jacked up spell damage for the entire raid and could only be provided by rogues. And now, all of a sudden, you have a very good reason to include a rogue in every group, right? And I think every class, not every specialization, every class should have something like that that's like a unique and significant buff that makes you want to include a player of that class in your raid. Which of the following talent trees, in your opinion, need major revamping? Sub-Rogue. Okay, we're just gonna go through and do every spec that's a meme spec in vanilla. Hunters do, I think every hunter build is a meme spec. Hunter, oh, here they go. Resto, Druid. Feral is like, okay. Balance is a meme spec. Resto is what they play already. Fire Mage is the one they already play, and sometimes Frost. Holy Paladin, Ret Paladin sucks. Prot Paladin sucks. Priest, Shadow Priest kind of sucks, right? Disc Priest and Holy Priest. I'm not sure which one of these is good and which one isn't. All the rogues suck. Shamans, these ones suck. I'm pretty sure all the warlocks suck. Arms Warrior sucks, and Protection Warrior sucks. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything. Guess we can unclick Combat Rogue. I don't know. I mean, pretty much, I'm just gonna click every single one. The classes suck in vanilla. That's just straight up, except for Fury Warrior. Actually, that's the only good class. That is the only good class in vanilla. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, that's how it should go. Combat Rogues suck in Classic? Yeah. Yeah, when Fury Warrior does 30% more damage than you, yeah, Combat Rogue sucks. Should new roles for some classes be added? Check all you'd like to see. Tank Rogue, Tank Paladin, Tank Shaman. Yep. Classes receive new or adjusted abilities to make their rotations more interesting as they did or tried to in Season... Yes. If new abilities get added to classes, how should they be learned? Unlocked through exploration, quests. Sure, try a bunch of different things. I don't care. Oh, wait, it only lets me pick one. How would you feel if the talent trees in Classic were larger, meaning they went further down and required more point investment? If they gave us more talent points, could be cool. Yeah, I think if you make the trees deeper, you need to give more points as well. How would you feel if each talent tree had a capstone talent choice, meaning the bottom of the tree had 2 distinct talents of which you could only pick one? I don't know, kind of whatever. Did every class get a movement speed, talent, or ability? Not every class should move quickly. Yeah, I think that's fair. Mass Resurrection? Yes. Why am I wasting time letting my priest cast Resurrection 20 times? How does that make my experience better? Should damage over time / heal over time spells be able to crit baseline for all classes? Sure. Each class in Classic Plus have one spec tailored specifically for PvP. At least one spec should be good for PvP. Not important for full class representation in PvP to me. You know what? I'm not a PvP player. I'm marking no opinion. We're now going to ask you a question about your experience with each class, and depending on your answer, we'll present you with questions about that class. I want to emphasize the goal is balance amongst the classes. What class would you consider your main or have a good base of knowledge about? This one. Rogue. How would you rate Vanilla WoW Combat Rogue's kit in terms of solo content? 4, 5, 5-man dungeon content. I don't know, 6. Popping off with Blade Flurry is pretty good, but you have no reliable access to AoE like a Whirlwind or Cleave ability. You're cooldown dependent. Raid content, I feel like it's a 6 also. I mean, if you're bringing a character to a raid for damage output and you could bring a different character, a Fury Warrior, to the raid and they could do 30% more damage, it's fucked. Okay? This isn't really about, like, the style of Combat Rogue, but more about the this rating is more about the balance of Combat Rogue between Combat Rogue and other classes. PvP content, people don't really PvP as combat, so, you know, if it had a no opinion, I would press it, but it doesn't. Subtlety Rogue's kit in terms of solo content, definitely better. Dungeon content, raid content. I don't know. Is the kit good? Do they mean, like, how does it play? Or are they really talking about, like, is it numerically relevant? Because I feel like those are very different questions, and I'm not exactly sure. I'm influencing a lot of these choices by, like, is it numerically relevant? Right? Is the idea of the specialization cool? Like, yeah, maybe, but, like, if it just doesn't do enough damage, it doesn't do enough damage. Assassination Rogue. PvP, like, can be used in PvP. Solo content. Mid, bad. Rogue archetypes, if supported, would you be most excited to play? Balance not being a factor. Bleed builds, poison builds, tank, stealth and ambush. Stealth and ambush, I think. Of all those, I mean, a lot of these, I would play all of these. But the one that I'm most excited about, yeah. Should energy generation be tick-based? 20 every... Okay, this is supposed to say every 2 seconds. Or 1 energy every 0.1 seconds. Yup. Should rogue tank be a thing? Doesn't make sense. The other classes can tank. Rogue tank is... I'm actually kind of indifferent on this, but I'm going to vote for having it instead of not having it. Different weapon specializations for Rogue have distinct playstyles to them. Fist weapons play different from swords than from daggers than from maces. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Right now, the combat weapon specializations of mace spec, sword spec, fist spec, whatever, they're all just casting Sinister Strike and doing the same fucking thing. Whereas daggers have, like, their own abilities. They have backstab and they have ambush, and it's 60 energy for one combo point, so you're doing, like, different amount of finishing moves. Daggers feel different than the other weapons, and I think it'd be cool if each individual weapon kind of had, like, its own thing. Should Classic Plus lean into the Poison Rogue archetype? Poison Rogue is fun class fantasy, sure. Remove the requirement to level your lockpicking skill and just have it increase with the rogue's level. I'm indifferent on this. I'm going to put no opinion. Alright. I feel like I'm kind of surveyed out right now. We did a lot of surveys. I think I want to do... itemize... Maybe we do one more. Maybe we do the itemization one. Yeah, okay, let's do one more. Let's do the itemization survey. The other surveys, like, don't interest me too much. Should some BIS items for PvE be solely available as a reward for PvP participation? Yes. I think when the game is in its best state, the PvE best in slot gear requires you to do open world questing, raids, dungeon, and PvP. There's a little bit from every, like, different activity. However, like, the items that are not from PvE content that are good for PvP should have close alternatives from PvE content, right? Like, the PvP BIS pieces should only be a little bit better than the PvE alternatives in those slots. But I think it's really good when you incentivize the players to, like, do a broad variety of activities. Classes get a strong buff when they wear a full set of gear in their highest equipable equipment type. Yes! Oh my god, it literally... I just said yes, but look at what the option says. Look at what the option says. Let the leather wearers have their leather without competition from the warriors. Oh my god. Yup, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I'd already clicked it because it said yes before I even read it out. Cloth-wearing boomies? Yeah. Una Yahizde says, your name is very familiar. Did you play on Light's Hope or Anathema? Yeah, I mean, I played on Nostalrius, and then Nostalrius characters, like, got transferred into Light's Hope, and I played there a little bit. That was the only private server I ever played on. That was before Blizzard offered their own, like, private vanilla offering. Should progressive phases introduce gear that nearly always has higher base stats than gear previously available? No, things like set bonus can be a more unique way of increasing player power. But make it more gradual so the power creep is slower. Yeah, okay, I think this is the option. One of these two is the way to do it. Always higher and has higher base stats. I don't know. Things like one of these two. Yes, but gradual I'm going with. Do you like that certain items can remain powerful for several phases? Yes. Should legendaries in Classic Plus always be weapons or also other gear slots? Weapons, dude. Weapons are the most exciting. Should legendary weapons and items remain BIS for the entire lifetime of Classic? I mean, should you get Thunder Fury in Phase 1 of Classic Plus and never ever think about getting a different weapon ever again? No. I mean, I think I have to say, I don't know. I mean, upgradable like in Titan Reforged, that seems cool. But like this idea that you're going to get an item in Phase 1 and then forever that's going to be your best item, that is lame. So should it just remain BIS the entire time? If they had an item that like they should be replaced with new, I think this is the closest to like upgradable. So I'm between no or this. Fuck that, TF is BIS. I don't want to take my TF off. Even after like 3 years of having it, Dank War. You know, you never got a new weapon for 3 years straight because you had Thunder Fury. I don't know about that. Could use both Warglaives forever. Yo, you know, that's actually kind of true, Setripa. I don't know. I feel like there's not enough options. I think like the upgradable path is the answer here. I feel like the upgradable path is what it should be, but there just isn't really an option that clearly says that. Every class get access to legendary weapons? Yes. Weapon skill remain in the game, but speed up the rate at which you level up. Sure. What stats, if any, should be added to gear? Haste, armor pen, enhances certain abilities depending on your active spec. That could be cool. Expertise. Sure. Yeah, add some shit. Should resistances remain a stat on items? Make it one stat of resistance instead of individual elemental resistances? I don't no opinion. I don't really care about resistance that much. Gear score eye level be a relevant stat for players in Classic? I lead more towards no than yes. Like, ultimately, players are going to come up with a system to quickly and inaccurately, but somewhat accurately decide how good someone's gear is, right? Players are going to come up with that system, whether it's in the game or not. But, like, simplifying things down to item, I don't know. Healing power and spell power be combined into one stat? Sure. No, let's keep the gear separate. More diverse gear affixes of the soldier, of the sorcerer? Sure. Attack power and range attack power be combined? Sure. Crit and hit chance be changed to a rating instead of a flat percentage. Wait, this means, if we combine those, then it means hunters contest me for the items they want. But if you make it ranged attack power, then it's just like, this is an item only for hunters. And that's kind of fucked, because hunters would be the only physical DPS ranged class. Okay, fine, we'll combine them. Should crit and hit chance be changed to a rating instead of flat percentage? Yes, because it lets you put more incremental amounts of the stat on an item. It's like going from 0% to 1% to 2% to 3%. Like, that's a massive difference. Casters have a base stat that directly gives them spell power. Like, yes. Classic Plus have the ability to reforge your gear? No. I'm not a robot. Submit. Okay, I want to look at community results now. I'm done doing let LFM to summon results. We're still waiting for more people to help summon the results. So be sure to check back soon to see how your options stack up against the broader community. Wait, we can't see community results yet? What the hell? All right, well, whatever. Site development, Discord integration, site development, videography by farts. All right. Explore content shows stuff that was voted on. Okay. PvE systems would be super useful. Okay, smaller raids are the future. Oh, yeah, okay, I see. A lot of people, let's see, 85% upvoted. Smaller raids are the future. Tier sets for each spec, so every spec is more viable in raid comps and lets you look forward to getting the tier pieces with set bonuses rather than using off pieces. Yeah, absolutely. 92% upvoted. 10-mans are 83% upgraded. Upvoted. Raid bosses should last 2 to 6 minutes or more in unique cases. Yeah. Okay, whatever. Force a rare spawn in dungeons. Completion of a repeatable quest. Completion of a relatively long quest chain. Materials. Paying an NPC an amount of gold. Dungeon within a certain amount of time. Having a player of a specific class in a dungeon. I don't know. I don't really care about that. Smooth out dungeon levels. Yeah. Huge level ranges. Fuck that. They kind of fixed it mostly in Burning Crusade. They adjusted a lot of the dungeons so the starting level of the dungeon is very close to the ending level of the dungeon. That's fine. World bosses should be instanced. 68% upvoted. Okay. Not nearly as universal as some of the other ones we looked at. Raid bosses should actually do damage to the tank. What a novel idea. Account-wide attunements, yeah. Give me that. 64%. I would hope that gets more upvote percentage than that. Low-level sets. Loved sets. There's just something about grinding for a full set and seeing it come together. It seems this is mostly something you see in endgame content. I think if you did like an entire zone worth of quests or like a long quest chain like throughout Stranglethorn Vale, you might end up with like the Beast Hunter's leather or whatever. And it's like a 3 or 4 piece set with like some good bonuses on it. I think like no one's gonna farm Uldaman 12 times while leveling up to try to get like the Treasure Seeker's armor set. Like that's bullshit. You'll out-level it before you get the random drops. Or you'd have like this weird thing of like dungeon runs with the set pieces hard reserved for leveling dungeons. That'd be fucked. But if you put low-level tiers like sets as like quest rewards that were like deterministic acquisition, that would be really cool. Hunter arrows. Who cares about hunters? Horizontal gear progression. What exactly do they mean by that? It has been talked about a lot. We need some form of horizontal gear progression. Here are a few ways it could be handled. Interesting, unique, and situational set bonuses. If a new raid drops if a new raid drops and the gear isn't much better, it might still be interesting for a geared player to obtain if it allows them to change up their playstyle. Yeah, absolutely. Someone who wants to parse at the very top might use different sets on different bosses because the set bonus might be more useful in that situation. Thus, top players would still have an incentive to obtain all the sets, even if they don't differ a lot in terms of power. Absolutely, I love that. I love that. Something similar could also be interesting for PvP if there's some kind of prestige system. I don't know or care about that. Gear effective against certain types of enemies? I don't know about that. Like Undead Slayer or Dragon Slayer. That seems a little more mid. Cool looking gear. Of simply having a tier set that you like a lot visually might incentivize you to farm it, even if it has the same power level. In a game without transmog, which most agree should be kept out of Classic Plus, this would actually be quite important because once you have multiple viable sets, it kind of opens up the possibility of experimenting with your style. Yeah, like if you just had a raid, if you just made it drop like 3 different versions of Bone Scythe's shoulder with 3 different appearances. Okay, I guess. Tag sharing some solo content. Yeah, I would upvote. Wait, I can vote on these things? Wait, vote recorded successfully. Wait, hold on. I didn't realize I could vote on this already. Smaller raids are the future. Tier sets. Yes. Sure, we can vote on that. Dungeon levels. Yes. That was weird. Weird. Raid bosses should actually do damage to a tank. I'm not really a tank player, but that seems fine. Account-wide attunements, yes. Low-level tier sets, yes. Hunter arrows, horizontal gear progression, yeah, sure, whatever. Hard mode / heroic toggles, downvote. Get the fuck out of here with hard modes. No difficulty modes for raids except for Ulduar-like hard modes. Why can't we just say no fuck, man. Extra loot from last boss if you clear the dungeon. Chest at the end of a dungeon with extra loot for all the bosses in the dungeon as an incentive to clear all the bosses in the dungeon. Sure. Modern UI elements with edit mode. Sure. Dungeons in level-appropriate areas. Located in areas that are out of the way or require lots of travel. Precisely because of the level appropriate for the zone, that the level of the dungeon conform to the zone they're low. Yeah, that seems good. Revamp the vanilla raids and mix them up with new raids. Yes. Okay, there's like infinity things here. Reputations, other, itemization. Is there like classes? Let's look at some itemization. Keep some gear from older raids relevant. Yes. Professions should have relevance the entire game. Yes. Stack size adjustments. Don't care. Spec-specific tier sets. Yes. More material crossover. Like weapon polish, which is a material for blacksmith. Yeah, crossover is cool. Make all content always relevant forever. I don't think you can make the game work if you make a raid that comes out literally relevant forever. I think you just need to massively slow down the progression. Itemization shouldn't be hyper-optimized, yes. You need to have sucky items. Yeah. Ring unique abilities. I remember in OnlyFangs when I taught Tyler 1 how to summon Veilstrez during UBRS, and then he got fucking mad because he had run UBRS like 100 times and no one else in OnlyFangs told him about that. Because no one else, even none of the other WoW sweats even, like, thought about it. So, Seal of Ascension, which is the ring, which is like the key for Upper Blackrock Spire, has a hidden on-use effect that allows you to summon Veilstrez the Red to help you when you're fighting Warchief Rend Blackhand. And it just summons a big-ass dragon, and it, like, buffs your team or heals your team or something, and then just smacks the dragon. And it's like, it's a hidden on-use effect. You right-click it just like a use effect, but there's no text on the item that indicates you would be able to do that. Yeah, dude, okay, look at this. Maybe this'll find it. I taught Tyler 1 how to summon a dragon in UBRS. Alright, so we're here at the start of a UBRS run, and there's been some animosity between... Is this the one where I did it, or... 3% believers, 97%
here.
doubters. Okay, here. This is where we did. I didn't do it in the first run.
Is your luck on fire today?
You want to see this?
Hey, I'm opening character panel now. Right when he drops, I'm pressing it, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
Now you can do it.
Holy hell.
Okay.
You see here. Oh, congrats, guys. Ding. Ding.
Ding.
How have we done this 100 times and nobody said this?
Oh, the dragon is here.
Holy shit.
Oh, he's slapping him.
What the?
I just misclicked the dragon, I ruined it.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Where's the?
Oh, finally, Valor Shoulders.
Just stay here?
Yep. That's it. Oh shit, I'm disconnected. Wait, can I reconnect? Unable to reconnect. Okay, hang on.